Right, well, welcome to another episode of Fridays with Fowler and Fowler.
I'm Tania Fowler with Interplay Coaching.
That makes sense. That's why we got the name of the show. Because I'm Gordon Fowler with Threefold Communications.
Are you just now getting that?
It just clicked for me.
Today we're talking about weaknesses.
Yes, so clearly my weakness is logical
Gullible.
thinking.
Super gullible. Yeah.
So we're really talking about weaknesses as it comes up in the interview process, right? And really what that means is, how do you deal with the age-old and way overused, so tell us about what your weakness is.
So change the question.
Yeah, from the employer side, for
that's
sure.
a terrible question.
So how would you ask that? How would you get to the same information differently?
Okay, so can I first say that asking that question, you're sort of forcing people, it comes off as a gotcha question. If I tell them a true weakness, do I lose any chance of this job? So people are skittish around this question. You're kind of forcing some people to, fib. It's also an opportunity for the humble brag, I'm the hardest working person you're ever gonna meet, and it sort of messes up my marriage. That's,
my God.
Not something that's good.
And it's very Joan of Arc.
Yeah, and martyry.
It's very
Super
martyry.
yeah.
We are not hiring you to build a statue of you.
Remember, everything
in
you say
Doko.
communicates something about you. So change the question and ask somebody what's something really challenging that you couldn't see your way through and then figured out the path and made it work.
Yeah. Interesting enough, I don't ask this question, and I always give a little preamble so that I can get an honest dialogue. So the question that I always say is listen, I hire to strengths.
Good.
I think it's a trust question for the employer. These are my strengths. It's okay to have these weaknesses because I'm building a team around strengths and compensating for weaknesses, right?
That's beautiful.
So I always start with that, and then I don't follow up saying, so what's your weakness? I'll generally go into what the strengths questions are. I always ask people that I'm interviewing, when you are under stress, how does that show up?
Right. Which is actually a better question than the weakness question.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question, because that's really what you're trying to get at. How do you overcome barriers? And if one of the barriers is you, how do you work through that?
And there's no wrong answer to that.
No.
Because some people will say, well, I just get really deep within myself and I just hunker down. And somebody else will say, well, I need to get up and take a walk.
But you also want to take those weaknesses, if you're asked the question, because a lot of people aren't going to be, you remember in the previous show I talked about lazy questions? This is a lazy question. I
agree.
And they're still going to be asking you lazy questions, so be ready for them. And if that is the case, then talk about a time where something was hard for you, and what did you learn from it? How did you overcome it? How did you turn that, into lemonade, for lack of a better word?
So if I, as an employer, am asking you, so what's your greatest weakness? You would say, there was a time in my life when.
Thanks a lot. Oh gosh, I have weaknesses I work on all the time. I'm a very passionate person with a lot of thoughts. I tend to jump into conversations. I have to remind myself not to do that. I have to tell myself in meetings, people, it's already been said. You don't need to have the last word.
I do that too.
So things like that I'm really aware of, but don't always, conquer.
Right. Because having the last word is really important.
It's always really important to have the last word.
To me.
No, to me.
It is.
I think it's very important.
Okay, so just sort of in terms of a wrap up around the weakness question, one is be prepared because it more than likely will be asked.
Right.
And then a takeaway from that that we've talked about is when the question is asked, transition it into a time when you had something difficult happen or where that weakness was evident and how you overcame it.
Right. But also, going in, you're probably going to be asked a question like this.
Yeah.
You really should have an answer ready to go.
Right.
Like that. You should be thinking about that.
Do you think that the I'm a perfectionist?
It's a humble brag.
It's a humble brag.
Yeah. This is not your opportunity to humble brag.
Right.
People see through that.
Yeah. I agree.
So, you want to be honest. And you want to show people you work through. When do we learn the most about ourselves? When we struggle.
Yeah.
We don't learn anything about ourselves when things are going great.
Yeah.
So we all have, that's part of the human experience, so we all have these stories we could talk about. And we just need to talk about them confidently, and that they are part of your past, and it isn't, and you have learned, and you move on.
Yeah. And I think for me as an employer, it's important to not feel that there's an answer to that question that matters. And
That's great.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really
What I
good
mean by
answer.
that is the answer I'm really looking for from the weakness discussion is just honesty.
Right.
Because that tells me a lot about how they're going to interact with the team, how they're going to interact with me, and most importantly, how they're going to interact with our clients. So for me, the answer doesn't matter, but it's the honesty in which that answer is conveyed that matters
Right,
the
and
most.
since the interview is a system with an interviewer and an interviewee, the interviewee doesn't know that you think that.
Yeah.
Right? So the interviewee, by that question, is automatically on its heels a little bit, on
Right.
its heels a little bit, on the defensive. So the more that employer can do to reassure that we're looking at how you overcome barriers or things that have happened to you, that's all we want. We're
Got
not
it.
judging you.
Yeah,
Then that's
maybe a little.
then that's a
It
better
depends on what
answer.
the weakness really is.
Yeah, I mean, well, if they tell you, some of them. What's the worst one you ever heard? Or the most shocking?
I
guess?
did hear one person was like, well, I drink a little.
Oh,
And
that
I
means
was
they drink a
like,
lot.
Right. And I was like, at work or after work? Yeah.
Really? So, well, that was honest.
I know.
If you're looking
it
for
really
honesty.
was. Okay, so I think that's a wrap.
Yeah,
Good
that's a
job.
wrap.
Happy Friday and
Happy
Friday.
Friday.
No, happy Fowler.
Happy
Fowler.
Fridays with Fowler and Fowler.
You have to high five me when you do
Oh,
that, because
sorry.
otherwise I'm like Miss America. Like.
Happy Fridays with Fowler and Fowler.